Good morning guys, and welcome to another video. So it's a bank holiday weekend, the sun is out and I get to work on the car, so I'm pretty happy. Now, why am I working on the car again? Well, I noticed about 6 weeks ago that my serpentine belt was sort of fraying on the edges, and then I took the car in for a service about 4 weeks ago and they also highlighted it on the service, and I was like, yeah, okay, we've both noticed it, I'll take a look. So more than just changing the serpentine belt today, I want to check the pulleys. I mentioned it on my 10 things to look out for on the C63 video, which you can find up here. All the pulleys are made of plastic, and that basically means that they're not very strong, they can crack, they're brittle over time, the heat gets to them, and they can break, and the bearings in them can wobble. There's no end of things that can go wrong with a plastic pulley. So I want to check the pulleys, and I want to check that they're all, free rolling, they're straight, they're not wobbling or anything. That's as important as changing the belt. Now, whilst it was in for the service, I said, oh, could you actually just price me up putting a new serpentine belt on? And they quoted me £150. Now, I'll show you why that's a ridiculous price in a minute, because this job seemingly is quite easy to do. I've never done it. You're going to be learning with me. But the belt price from genuine Mercedes was £41. So let's start the car up and head out.
Ooh, let's have a cup of tea. Here's a serpentine belt, and what I can see of it from the top of the engine bay. Notice on the edges there is some definite fraying. It's just a bit nerve-wracking, as a frayed belt is normally a sign that it wants changing. But as you can see, there really isn't a lot of space to get your hands down in there and do this job. This job would probably take 20 minutes if you had some really small hands and weren't filming it. As there isn't that much space here for either my hands or the camera, I'm going to try and make some more room and remove the radiator fan so that I can film the process for you more clearly. I know on some M156 engine cars there's a lot more space so you can access it from the top, or on others you can just remove the trays and access it from the bottom. First, I'm going to remove the plastic shroud on top of the radiator. Next, I need to remove the radiator support. However, connected to the radiator support is the bonnet catch bar. I don't know how hard it is to align, so I marked the position where it was, in case it moves out of alignment with the latch mechanism. These are all pretty standard tools used: a ratchet, Torx head, 10mm socket. There's also this rubber flap on top of the radiator, which you have to unclip. I didn't remove it entirely as there was no need, and I can remove the radiator fan without doing so. Okay, so actually, to get the fan out, you have to pull out the electrical connector, obviously, which is really hard to show on camera, but it's like a little squeezy clip. You squeeze either side of it and then pull it down. Now, I am slightly worried about getting it back in, but we'll get to that when we get there. There it is there, and it's got two little squeezy clamps either side. These clips holding on the radiator on each side, one there, and then on there, which you have to sort of push out and pull up at the same time to get them to clear, and do the same on this side. After unclipping the top clips, the fan still wouldn't budge, so I deduced that there must also be some clips underneath the fan, as I couldn't see any down the sides. This meant jacking the car up and taking a look underneath. I've got dirt on my t-shirt, no. Okay, so these little tabs now should just push off, which will let me to get the fan out. There's one on each side. Oh, very hard to do with the camera. You can also see here, this is the electrical connector for the fan. So you can see that wiggling there, it just clips with those two big clips underneath. Right, so to take the under tray off, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bolts. Screws, rather. 9 screws underneath here, which is quite tight. Now that there isn't a fan and a huge shroud in the way, you can see that the belt and tensioner has a 17mm hex head on the side of it. When force is applied in a counterclockwise direction, it releases the tension on the belt. The huge breaker bar was overkill for this, but also really useful as it allowed me to remove tension with one hand and place an Allen key into the small hole underneath the tensioner and hold it there. Inspecting the belt, there are quite a few small cracks, no large ones, which is really nice to see. For those new to the channel, my car is on 63,000 miles. These small cracks aren't really a problem, but with more heat cycles they will grow into larger cracks and eventually break, so it is a nice preventative measure to do this change. Now it's time to inspect the pulleys.
Okay, so here's the pulley check. Here's my Allen key, stopping that from the tensioner from springing back. So we'll start from the left. I think this is the condenser, AC condenser, so obviously that's not going to spin very easily, but it's not wobbling, which is good. That's your power steering pump, which isn't wobbling, which is good. This looks like just an idler, and that spins pretty freely. It's a little bit loose on the wobble. You can see it moving there. This is the tensioner. Spins really nicely. No wobble. This one spins really nicely, very little wobble. This one, which I think is another idler, you hear that? This one, don't like the sound of that one either. Looks like the water pump from here. That's not wobbling, which is good. Obviously I'm not going to pump that very quickly because it's got resistance on it. And then this one is the alternator, which spins fine. There's no wobble on that. And then this one is obviously your crank, which I'm definitely not going to spin by hand.
For the time being, I can take a look at how the new belt shapes up to the old one, and they are almost exactly the same size. The newer one is slightly shorter, which is fine, not by much, but belts do stretch over time, and I think this is within the tolerance, so I'm happy that Mercedes have supplied me with the correct part number.
Okay, so as you've seen, I'm not happy with the pulleys. There's at least two that I'm not happy with, and because it's a bank holiday weekend, nowhere's open for new pulleys, which has delayed this video. I'm sorry about that, but I can't live with myself to put a new belt on some old pulleys that I'm not happy with, the noises that they're making. So luckily, I lined the car up perfectly to be pushed back into the garage in case this did happen. So, you know, I love myself sometimes because it won't be on the driveway for the next 4 days.
3 days later.
Okay, so I've got all my pulleys, and before I put them on, obviously I'm going to check them all and make sure that they're all the same size, and hopefully they fit. First one is this top left one here, the easiest one, and it looks to be the same size. It's got the same amount of ribs on it, which is also really good. And it's held on with an E12. Obviously this needs Loctite on it. That actually already looks like it's got some Loctite on it. Let's take the original one off. So, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. They're going into an aluminium timing case, these bolts, so they're really not torqued very high. I think the most out of all of these is 30 Newton meters. So out comes the old. The grease has actually been sort of flung out of the bearing, so that's where that noise is coming from. You can feel it when you hold it, that it's really grainy, whereas this new one, absolutely no noise coming out of that. A little bit of Loctite blue, same as what came off. Straight on, easy peasy, absolutely no noise, which is really nice to hear. Or not hear. Here goes 20. It's not much, is it? It's really hard to film this in such a small space. You can see that's the size of my hand, and that's the pulley that needs to come out next. So this one's the Torx head T50. So that was me fighting against the Loctite that's on there, obviously. The old bolt that you have to reuse, because there isn't one in the box, has got loads of old Loctite on it, and that's going to mess up my torque value. So I'm going to clean up this old bolt with just a paper towel, get all the old Loctite off, reapply Loctite, put it in, and then torque it. Just go check the torque value in the Mercedes service manual on that one. There we go.
This one has like a spacer on it, if you can see that. On there. Lovely jubbly. There goes the spacer. Chips are done. And there's the last one. Just needs a clean, Loctite, same process as all the others. And then I think, yeah, we'll start reassembling fan back in, then do a check, and then put all the covers and stuff on. Everything's back in, well, the fan's back in. We're going to go for a start-up now. I'm going to put all the bits back together now. I'm not going to film that because you've seen it come off, so I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like the mechanical stuff, give it a thumbs up so I know that you've liked it, and then I can do more of it. Blood, sweat and tears went into this one, as you can see. It's only a tiny cut, but it still counts. I hope to see you on the next one. Thank you very much for watching, and righty tighty lefty loosey. I've not said that in a while. Cheers.